Revelation 2759. From the 29th of May 1943. Internal reflections and self-knowledge. Man pays too little attention to his inner life, otherwise he would recognize himself and his shortcomings better and try to remedy them. The work on his soul only begins when he recognizes his inadequacy, when he consciously strives for perfection, when he seeks to ennoble himself in the recognition of his faults and weaknesses. And he only discovers these when he deepens himself inwardly, that is, when he subjects his life, his actions and thoughts to serious criticism. If he is a child of the world, then he only pays attention to the externals, he only sees his physical constitution but not that of the soul, and all his thinking and wanting only applies to the body and its needs, for the world repeatedly approaches the human being with its demands, which he now eagerly complies with. And his inner life fades completely into the background. He will think little or not at all about how his behavior is towards his fellow human beings, how his attitude is towards God, and how he will stand before himself if he is called to account for his thoughts and actions. And therefore he will not work on himself. Conscious soul work also includes recognizing oneself. The human being must relentlessly criticize himself. He must not overlook any faults and weaknesses, he must have the firm will to develop progressively, he must not be satisfied with himself but always and constantly strive for perfection. And in order to want all this, he must be convinced of his unworthiness, of his inadequacy, but this is only the result of inner self-examination. Man is mostly honest with himself, as soon as he subjects himself to an examination. And this inner, uninfluenced thinking only brings about a clear judgment about oneself, and this is then followed by work on oneself, for no human being is without faults. The more a person withdraws in order to converse with himself, with his vices and desires, the sooner he declares war on them, because the inner voice warns and admonishes him, if only he has the will to let this inner voice sound within him. Then it will draw his attention to every fault, it will spur him on to conscious soul work, it will urge him again and again to introspection, and he will become humble because he recognizes himself and his weaknesses and gives up all arrogance. And through such self-examination he will mature inwardly, he will learn to understand the weaknesses of his fellow human beings because he finds them in himself, and he will ask for strength for his transformation, which he very well recognizes as necessary and therefore also seriously tackles. The inner contemplations have a very great enabling value because the human being now learns to recognize himself and consciously works on himself. Amen.